A cold CEO millionaire blamed the poor girl's error, yet her misstep exposed his enemy within. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main characters. The lobby of Halden Tower hummed with the soft rhythm of polished shoes, distant elevators, and whispers of people who never dared speak above a certain volume inside a billionaire's domain. Warm gold lights reflected off the marble floors, but to Lily Carter, those reflections only made her second-hand blazer look more faded, the frayed stitching near her wrist more obvious. She clutched the folder to her chest, muttering the delivery code she'd repeated all morning, hoping she wouldn't mess up again. She couldn't afford another mistake. Her stomach tightened, the way it always did when she stepped into worlds she didn't belong to, worlds where her sneakers squeaked too loudly, where every breath felt borrowed. Suite 4801. 4801, she whispered under her breath, praying the number would anchor her nerves. Up ahead, a man in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit stood with his back to her, broad shoulders framed by the glow of the skyline pouring through the massive windows. Even before he turned, she knew who he was. Everyone did. Ethan Halden, the cold CEO, the man whose name lived in headlines, whose empire spanned coast to coast, whose expression rarely moved except to show disapproval. She didn't expect him to notice her. People like him never notice girls like her. But when Lily stepped forward, trying to slip the envelope into the outgoing tray the way the receptionist instructed, her elbow bumped the corner of a sleek glass sculpture. It wobbled. Once, twice, and she froze as if the building itself held its breath. Ethan turned sharply. His eyes, ice blue, unreadable, locked onto the shifting sculpture just as Lily lunged to steady it. Her fingers grazed the glass, heart pounding, breath catching, but before she could stop it, the sculpture tilted again. Not a crash, not a disaster, but enough of a scrape against the pedestal to echo through the silent lobby. Enough for him to decide she was the problem. Unbelievable, Ethan muttered, stepping toward her with a controlled, icy calm that somehow felt worse than shouting. Do you have any idea what you almost damaged? Lily swallowed hard. I'm sorry, sir. It was an accident. I didn't mean accidents, he cut in. Only happen when people aren't paying attention. The words hit harder than he intended, but he didn't soften them. He never did. Lily lowered her gaze, cheeks burning, shame pricking hot against the back of her eyes. She wanted to disappear into the marble underneath her. She wanted to say she had been paying attention, that she worked 2 jobs, that she hadn't slept more than 4 hours, that she was trying her best just to hold her life together. But people like Ethan didn't want explanations. They wanted perfection. She stepped back, murmuring another apology, gripping the folder so tightly her knuckles whitened. Ethan reached for the sculpture, checking for scratches. His jaw tightened. And then, something shifted. Not in the sculpture. Not in him. But in the air itself, a subtle, uneasy tension curling between marble pillars. Because Lily's small misstep, one clumsy, human moment, had revealed something he had missed. A detail out of place. A signature on the pedestal that shouldn't have been there. A fingerprint smudged exactly where only authorized staff should have access. His expression changed, just barely. A flicker of suspicion. A crack in the cold exterior. Lily didn't know it yet. Ethan didn't fully understand it yet. But her mistake had just exposed the first trace of an enemy hiding inside his empire. For a long moment after the sculpture incident, Lily stood frozen in the center of the lobby, unsure whether she should apologize again or simply disappear into the nearest elevator. Ethan had already turned away, his expression unreadable as he examined the smudge on the pedestal, but something in the focused way he leaned in made her uneasy. She backed away quietly, clutching her folder, hoping the rest of the delivery would go smoothly. The receptionist gave her a sympathetic look when Lily approached the desk to get her badge signed out. Rough morning, she whispered. Lily forced a polite smile. Just nerves, I guess. She did not mention that it felt like every room in Halden Tower demanded perfection she could not afford. She stepped outside into the cool air of the mid-morning city, letting the sunlight warm her cheeks. The hum of traffic grounded her, reminding her that out here, she was just another person walking down the sidewalk and not a mistake waiting to happen. Still, she could not shake the feeling that she had left something unfinished behind. Inside the tower, Ethan was still staring at the faint fingerprint near the base of the sculpture. It was subtle, barely visible unless the light hit at the right angle. But Ethan had built an empire on noticing what others ignored. He reached for his phone, then stopped. He did not want to jump to conclusions. Maybe he was imagining it. Maybe the morning's frustration made him extra critical. Yet the discomfort lingered. Someone had been close to that sculpture recently. Someone who should not have been. He turned his attention to the envelope Lily had dropped off, recognizing a procurement seal on the corner. He flipped it open, scanning the paperwork inside. But the real distraction was not the document at all. It was the girl. The way she had immediately tried to fix her mistake. The way she flinched when he snapped at her. The way her worn blazer contrasted with the gleaming marble beneath her feet. He had seen countless employees come and go, but something about her felt more genuine than the parade of polished faces that usually crossed his lobby. He pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the fingerprint. He called his head of security, instructing him to send the most recent maintenance logs for the lobby. No alarms, the head replied confidently. Everything has been normal. But Ethan did not feel normal. Something in his intuition had shifted the moment Lily touched that pedestal, as if her misstep had tilted more than the sculpture. Meanwhile, Lily stepped into the crowded sidewalk cafe she always walked past but could rarely afford. Today she allowed herself a small treat, ordering the least expensive item on the menu. As she waited, she pulled a notebook from her bag and scribbled a reminder to apply for evening shifts at the hotel across town. Rent was due in 4 days. Her brother needed help with his textbooks. Life did not pause just because a billionaire thought she was careless. But her thoughts kept returning to that brief moment in the lobby. The way Ethan Halden looked at the pedestal as if something had gone wrong long before she arrived. She wondered why he seemed more intrigued than angry in the end. She wondered why he kept staring after she walked away. And back inside Halden Tower, Ethan replayed her clumsy attempt to catch the sculpture, noticing how her fingertips brushed the very place where the wrong fingerprint appeared. Her mistake had given him something his entire security team had missed, a clue that an unseen hand had been tampering in the heart of his tower. And he did not yet know that the girl he blamed might be the only person who could help him uncover the truth. By the time Lily finished her small lunch and stepped back onto the sidewalk, the city felt louder than before, as if every passing car and distant siren reminded her she had no room for mistakes today. She checked the time, tucked her notebook away, and hurried toward the bus stop, hoping to reach the hotel that promised extra evening shifts if she showed up early enough. Her phone buzzed with a reminder about rent, a quiet vibration that made her chest tighten. She whispered a promise to herself that she would somehow make everything work, even if her morning at Halden Tower had gone terribly. Inside the tower, Ethan sat in his office on the 48th floor, a space lined with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the skyline like moving artwork. Yet he barely noticed the view. His attention remained fixed on the maintenance logs spread across his desk. The entries were clean, almost too clean. He scanned the timestamps and saw that one of the routine inspection signatures belonged to a technician who had resigned 3 weeks earlier. It was subtle, easy to overlook, but to Ethan it stood out like a loose thread. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his thumb across the edge of the log, feeling that same strange instinct that had sparked the moment Lily brushed the sculpture pedestal. Something had been off in the lobby long before she arrived. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. His chief financial officer, Marcus Gray, stepped inside with the polished confidence of someone who always believed he belonged in the highest office. "You wanted to see me?" Marcus asked, setting a folder on the desk. Ethan nodded but kept his gaze sharp, searching for any sign this man who had been with the company for years might know more than he let on. "I want to confirm a few details about the new art installations in the lobby," Ethan said. "I noticed one of the pedestal plates had smudges. Do you know if anyone accessed it recently?" Marcus smiled, but it did not quite reach his eyes. "Probably a cleaner or a contractor. The security team can be overly strict, but nothing valuable has been touched." Ethan held the log up. "Then why is there a signature from someone who no longer works here?" Marcus's smile stiffened, just a flicker, but enough for Ethan to register. "Clerical error. Marcus replied quickly. I will take care of it. Ethan watched him leave, the unease settling heavier in his chest. Marcus was loyal, or at least he had always appeared to be. Yet something about the tension in his voice felt wrong. Outside the tower, Lily arrived at the hotel only to learn that all extra shifts had already been filled. Her heart dropped. The manager apologized kindly, but it did nothing to soften the blow. She stepped back onto the sidewalk, exhaling slowly as she stood beneath a flickering street lamp. She felt as if the entire city kept moving while she remained stuck in place. She pressed her hands together, grounding herself, reminding herself to keep going. As she walked toward the bus stop again, her mind unexpectedly drifted back to Ethan Halden's expression. It had not been anger in the end. It had been something more complex, almost like curiosity mixed with suspicion. She wondered what he had seen that she had not. Back in his office, Ethan replayed Lily's moment of panic, the way her fingers landed exactly where a stranger's fingerprint had been. She had not just revealed a smudge. She had revealed a secret he was never supposed to notice. He tapped his desk thoughtfully. He needed to know when she had arrived, who she passed in the lobby, and whether anyone else had interacted with the pedestal before her. And for reasons he could not yet explain, he felt certain that the girl he had blamed might become an unexpected key to uncovering what was happening inside his tower. The afternoon stretched quietly inside the modest apartment as Lily folded freshly dried clothes on the couch, pausing every so often to check on Adam as he finished his homework. The steady rhythm of normal life should have calmed her, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the tower, the pedestal, the way Ethan Halden's eyes sharpened when he noticed something she could not see. She shook off the memory, stacking the last shirt neatly, and reminded herself that whatever was happening in that skyscraper had nothing to do with her. She was simply a temp worker who had almost knocked over a sculpture. Nothing more. Across the city, Ethan stood at the window of his office, watching clouds drift across the skyline while his mind pieced together the morning's discoveries. Someone impersonating maintenance staff. Unauthorized access to lobby installations. Records edited to hide inconsistencies. It all pointed to someone operating quietly inside his company. Someone who understood the tower well enough to move around unnoticed. His phone buzzed with a message from the security chief, working on cross-referencing contractors. Ethan replied with a single instruction to keep digging. He slipped his phone into his pocket and walked toward the conference table, where Lily's envelope still lay. He had already read the documents, yet he found himself lifting the envelope again, studying her careful handwriting on the front. He did not know why it struck him, but it did. Perhaps because the handwriting was steady despite the frayed state of her blazer, despite the way she seemed to shrink into herself when he scolded her. She had looked like someone carrying too many responsibilities alone, someone he should not have blamed so quickly. Meanwhile, Lily headed to her part-time evening shift at a small bookstore a few blocks away. The warm scent of paper and cinnamon from the store's tiny cafe greeted her as she stepped inside. Her manager, Mrs. Taylor, handed her a name tag and a relieved smile. I am glad you could cover tonight. We have had a steady stream of customers. Lily returned the smile and slipped behind the counter, helping customers find new releases and ringing up purchases. For a few hours, she felt almost settled. The quiet, cozy space eased her mind. Just before closing, she stepped outside with a bag of recycling and noticed her phone blinking with a missed call from the temp agency. She pressed the phone to her ear, listening to the voicemail. The voice on the other end explained that Halden Tower had requested confirmation of her identity and arrival time from the previous morning. She froze on the small back porch of the bookstore, the cool air brushing across her cheeks. Why would Halden Tower need her arrival time? Why would a billionaire CEO be concerned with a temp worker who delivered documents only once? Her heart thrummed in confusion. She whispered to herself, what did he see? At that same moment, Ethan walked through the lobby on his way out of the building. The pedestal gleamed under the evening lights, but he no longer saw the sculpture as decoration. He saw it as a clue, a quiet warning, a sign that someone inside his empire had been playing a dangerous game. As he passed the receptionist's desk, he paused. Do you remember the young woman who delivered documents this morning? He asked. The receptionist nodded immediately. Yes, sir. Lily Carter. Ethan repeated the name, feeling an unexpected pull of interest. If she returns for any reason, he said softly, let me know. The receptionist agreed, though she looked puzzled. Ethan stepped into the cool night air, adjusting the cuff of his sleeve as he walked toward his car. He could not yet explain why the girl mattered, only that her brief stumble had revealed what his entire security system had failed to detect. And as Lily locked the bookstore doors and headed toward the nearest bus stop, she had no idea that her morning misstep had already placed her at the center of a mystery far larger than she imagined. From the moment Lily stepped off the bus the next morning, a lingering uneasiness followed her like a shadow. She hugged her jacket close as she walked toward the temp agency, hoping the strange voicemail from the previous night had been nothing more than routine administrative work. But the receptionist's raised brows when she arrived told her otherwise. "Lily, Halden Tower called again," the woman said softly. "They asked for a detailed timeline. They rarely request that for a simple delivery." Lily's heartbeat stumbled. She thanked the receptionist, stepping aside as her mind spun through possibilities. Had she caused more problems than she realized? Had someone complained about her? Or worse, had Ethan Halden reported her? The thought made her stomach twist. Meanwhile, on the 48th floor of the tower, Ethan stood at the long conference table staring at several printed images laid out in a line. They were still frames from the security footage. Lily entering the lobby. Lily walking past the sculpture. The mysterious maintenance worker adjusting the pedestal. Ethan tapped the image of the man's uniform with a measured calm that barely concealed the tightening tension under his voice. The head of security cleared his throat. "Sir, we cross-checked every contractor and every temporary badge issued in the last month. No one matches the individual in the footage." Ethan nodded slowly. Then he was inside without authorization. The chief agreed, concern etched across his expression. Ethan's jaw tightened at the confirmation he had been anticipating but dreading. Someone was infiltrating his company with a level of confidence that suggested they believed no one would notice. And no one had. Until Lily. Later that afternoon, Lily helped the agency prepare shipments in the back room, labeling boxes and sorting forms. She tried to lose herself in the rhythm of the work, but her mind kept circling back to Halden Tower. It was like a loose thread she could not stop noticing. When her shift ended, she walked out into the crisp air, debating whether she should call and ask why the CEO's building cared so much about her arrival time. But she did not even know who to ask. On the other side of the city, Ethan received an update from an assistant who entered his office looking hesitant. "Sir, your chief financial officer requested access to the lobby maintenance records earlier this morning." Ethan raised an eyebrow. Did he give a reason? He said he wanted to review cost allocations, but he insisted on reviewing them alone. That tightened something inside Ethan. Marcus rarely concerned himself with operational minutiae, and he certainly did not request records without explanation. Ethan's instincts sharpened. "Restrict access to those files," he ordered calmly, "and alert me if he asks for anything else." The assistant nodded and slipped out. Ethan glanced again at the still frame of Lily standing in the lobby, her eyes wide, her fingers inches from the pedestal. A young woman who had simply been trying to do her job. A young woman who accidentally revealed something dangerous. And still, she had looked so genuinely apologetic when he scolded her that morning. He exhaled softly, an unfamiliar weight in his chest. As dusk settled, Lily stepped into the small kitchen back home to help Adam with dinner. She tried to focus on chopping vegetables and listening to him describe his science class, but her phone buzzed again. Another call from the temp agency. Her breath caught as she listened to the message. "Lily, Halden Tower has requested a meeting with you. They did not specify why. Please come by tomorrow morning so we can brief you." The spoon in her hand stilled. A meeting. At Halden Tower. Requested by someone with enough authority to make her entire agency respond. Across the city, Ethan looked out at the glittering skyline with a decision already forming in his mind. If he wanted answers, he needed to speak to the one person whose small mistake had revealed the cracks in his empire. And he intended to do exactly that. Morning arrived with a thin layer of fog stretching across the streets as Lily hurried toward the temp agency, her nerves wrapped tightly around every step she took. She replayed the voicemail in her mind again and again, trying to steady her breathing. A meeting at Halden Tower. Requested by someone important. She could not imagine why a place like that would want to see her again, especially after she had nearly damaged something valuable. When she walked inside the agency, the receptionist offered her a gentle smile, the kind people use when they sense someone on the edge of worry. Lily, they asked for you to come to the building directly. They did not give details, but they sounded urgent. Lily swallowed hard. Urgent? The receptionist nodded. They did not sound upset, just very focused. It was meant to be reassuring, but Lily felt anything but reassured. She thanked her and stepped outside, pulling her jacket tighter as she made her way toward the nearest subway station. As the train rattled beneath the city, she gripped the metal pole and silently hoped this was not about losing work or being blamed for something larger than she understood. She needed every job she could get. The doors opened with a soft chime, and she stepped into the cool morning air near Halden Tower. She paused at the base of the skyscraper, staring up at the reflective windows that stretched so high they disappeared into the lingering fog. The lobby's revolving doors spun, slowly, greeting polished shoes and crisp suits that seemed designed for this world. She took a steadying breath and stepped inside. The receptionist recognized her instantly. "Miss Carter, Mr. Halden asked to see you. Please take the private elevator to the 48th floor." Lily's heart lurched. "Mr. Halden? The chief executive officer himself." "Yes, ma'am. He is expecting you." Meanwhile, Ethan stood by the long window of his office, hands in his pockets, watching the city from a height that always reminded him how many lives his decisions touched. But today, his thoughts were not on contracts or numbers. They were on the young woman he had scolded 2 mornings earlier. Her arrival time had lined up perfectly with the unauthorized maintenance worker. Her attempt to catch the sculpture had revealed the fingerprint, and her nervous apology had shown him she was not the kind of person who walked through life carelessly. The elevator chimed behind him. He turned as the doors opened, revealing Lily standing hesitantly on the threshold. For a moment, she looked too small for the room, as if the gleaming floors and towering shelves pressed against her from all sides. "Miss Carter," Ethan said, his tone softer than she had expected. "Thank you for coming." She stepped forward carefully. "Sir, if this is about the sculpture, I am truly sorry. I did not mean—" He raised a hand gently to stop her. "It is not about the sculpture. Please sit." She hesitated, then slowly lowered herself into the chair across from him. Ethan studied her for a brief moment, noting the way she held her bag close to her side, the slight tremble in her hands, the determined steadiness in her gaze despite her nerves. "I need to ask you about what you saw in the lobby that morning," he said. "Even the details you think are unimportant." Lily blinked. "What I saw?" Ethan nodded. "Yes. A small detail you noticed helped me uncover something my entire team missed." She stared at him, confused. "But I did not notice anything." "You did," he replied quietly. "You just did not realize it." She looked down, trying to recall every second of that morning. "I only remember trying not to drop anything. And then, the pedestal." Ethan leaned in slightly. "Exactly." The word hung in the air. He watched her expression shift as understanding slowly knitted itself together. Lily whispered, "So I actually helped you." Ethan folded his hands. "More than you know." Lily had walked into his tower thinking she was there to apologize. She did not realize she had stepped into the center of a mystery that had already begun to unravel around her. For a moment Lily sat completely still, trying to understand why a simple mistake had placed her across from a chief executive officer whose time was usually measured in seconds. Ethan watched her with a calm steadiness, giving her space to process before he continued. "The pedestal did not wobble because of you," he said. "It wobbled because someone tampered with it before you ever walked into the lobby." Lily's eyebrows lifted slowly, confusion threading across her features. "Tampered with it? Why would someone do that?" Ethan exhaled, his gaze drifting briefly toward the skyline before returning to her. "That is what I am trying to figure out. Someone entered my building under a false identity. They left behind a fingerprint my team did not detect. And your attempt to steady the sculpture revealed that something was wrong." Lily's hands tightened around the strap of her bag. "So you want to know what I saw that morning?" "Yes," Ethan replied. Even the smallest detail could matter. She tried to recall the morning with more concentration this time. "I remember the lobby being quiet. I remember feeling nervous. I remember the sculpture catching my eye because the glass looked polished, like someone had just cleaned it." Ethan leaned in slightly. "Did you see anyone near it?" Lily thought carefully. "No. I arrived early. At least I think I did." He nodded. "Your arrival time matches the timestamp we are investigating." She blinked. So I was there right after the imposter? The realization sat heavy between them. Ethan nodded again, slower this time. Which is why I need your help reconstructing exactly how the scene looked when you arrived. Her instinct was to retreat. Help? She was not an investigator. She was just trying to keep a roof over her and her brother's heads. Sir, I do not know anything about security or investigations, she whispered. Ethan's voice softened. I am not asking you to solve the mystery. I am asking you to trust what you saw. She swallowed, her eyes dropping to the polished table before she glanced back up. I can. Try. He studied her for a moment, noticing the determination behind her uncertainty. Then he stood. Come with me. Lily rose from her seat, feeling a mix of hesitation and curiosity as Ethan guided her toward the private elevator. She had never been in such a space before. The interior glowed with warm lighting, the buttons lined with subtle silver trim. The elevator doors opened directly into the lobby she had walked through 2 days earlier. Only this time it felt different. Quiet. Intentional. Ethan stepped ahead but gestured for her to walk beside him. Look around, he said gently. Tell me if anything feels different from when you were here. Lily exhaled slowly and scanned the room. Her footsteps echoed softly across the marble as she walked toward the pedestal. She paused several feet away, recognizing the angle from which she had first seen it. It looked the same, except the base had more fingerprints then. I remember thinking it seemed strange for such an expensive piece. Ethan's eyebrows lifted. You noticed that? Lily nodded awkwardly. I guess I was looking for somewhere to put the envelope. The pedestal caught my eye. Ethan stepped closer, his expression thoughtful. That means the imposter interacted with it more than once. Lily's eyes widened. I really helped you find something. He gave a faint, rare smile. You did more than help. You noticed what my entire staff overlooked. Lily's breath caught at the unexpected praise. She had not heard words like that in a very long time. Ethan watched her quietly, sensing the shift in her posture. For the first time, he realized that the girl he had blamed was not someone who caused problems. She was someone who solved them without even meaning to. And somewhere deep within his tower, someone had hoped her eyes would not notice a thing. The moment Lily stepped back from the pedestal, Ethan studied her with a focus that made her shift slightly, unsure if she should say more or stay quiet. The lobby felt strangely still around them, the soft echo of distant footsteps rising and fading as if the entire building paused to listen. There is something else, Lily said quietly, almost surprising herself. Ethan turned to her fully. What is it? She hesitated, then pointed toward the narrow maintenance door tucked between 2 marble columns. When I came in that morning, that door was closing. I did not think anything of it at the time, but now, her voice trailed off as she tried to place the memory. It felt odd, like someone left in a hurry. Ethan's expression sharpened. Are you certain? Lily nodded slowly. I think so. I heard it latch right as I stepped inside. That detail struck him harder than he expected. The maintenance door should only open with an authorized keycard that records every use. If someone had slipped through it without leaving a trace, it meant they had access to something deeper than the lobby. Come with me, Ethan said gently. Lily followed him to the door, her steps careful but steady. Ethan examined the lock, then pressed a discreet panel beside it. A small screen lit up, scrolling through the access logs. He frowned. No entries recorded for that morning. Lily blinked. So, does that mean someone used it without authorization? Ethan nodded. Which means they had a bypass. That is not something a random intruder would carry. Lily felt a chill ripple across her arms. So it was someone inside the company. Ethan did not confirm it aloud, but the silence between them spoke for him. She tried to process the weight of what she had just stumbled into. She had arrived at the tower hoping to apologize for nearly breaking something, never expecting that her presence would uncover a hidden door and a hidden agenda. Why would someone tamper with a sculpture? She asked softly. Ethan took a slow breath, choosing his words carefully. The sculpture is not the target. It is the pedestal. Inside each one is a sensor that monitors temperature fluctuations, weight distribution, and movement. Lily's eyebrows lifted. Why? Because the pedestal is connected to our internal alert system, Ethan explained. If someone wants to test how sensitive that system is, the pedestal is one of the easiest places to experiment. Lily stared at him, absorbing the implications. Someone was testing your security. Yes, Ethan said quietly. And they were comfortable doing it inside my lobby in broad daylight. Lily pressed her hand against her chest, feeling her pulse quicken. I do not understand why you needed me. Ethan softened just slightly. Because you walked in at the exact moment their test ended. Your presence disrupted what they intended to remain hidden. And you noticed things my team did not. She looked at him, unsettled by how easily her ordinary morning had turned into something significant. I did not mean to get involved, she whispered. I just wanted to finish a delivery. I know, Ethan replied. But you saw what others overlooked. That makes you valuable. She blinked, stunned. No one had called her valuable in years. Before she could respond, the sharp sound of a phone vibrating pulled Ethan's attention. He glanced at the screen, and something in his expression shifted, focused, alert. My security chief found something, he said. He met her gaze again. Miss Carter, I need you to come upstairs. You should hear this as well. Lily's breath caught. She had walked into Halden Tower as a temp worker with a simple delivery. Now she was following a billionaire chief executive officer into the heart of his investigation, unaware that the truth waiting upstairs would change everything she thought she understood about that morning and about the people inside this tower. The private elevator rose smoothly, carrying Ethan and Lily toward the upper floors where the executive suites overlooked the entire city. Lily stood near the mirrored wall, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, the hum of the elevator loud against the quiet swirl of her thoughts. She could not shake the feeling that she was stepping deeper into something far beyond the world she knew. The doors opened into a quiet hallway lined with frosted glass offices. Ethan led her into a conference room where the head of security, a composed man named Daniel Reed, stood beside a large digital display. He nodded respectfully to Lily, though she could tell he was curious why she was present. Ethan gestured for her to sit before turning to Daniel. What did you find? Daniel tapped the screen, pulling up a series of images and access reports. We isolated all keycard activity from the past week. The maintenance door you reviewed shows no authorized entries. However, we did discover something strange. He zoomed into a timestamp from the morning Lily had delivered documents. A temporary badge belonging to a contractor was used 3 times within an 8-minute window. Ethan frowned. Contractor badges do not allow multiple entries that quickly. Exactly, Daniel replied. Which means someone duplicated the badge or manipulated its access level. Lily watched the exchange, her fingers nervously curling around the edge of her chair. Do you know whose badge it was? Daniel brought up a profile photo of a middle-aged contractor with a relaxed smile. Richard Wesson. He performs routine electrical inspections. He has been with us for years. No incidents, no complaints, no suspicious patterns. Ethan studied the man's face on the screen. Has anyone spoken to him today? Daniel nodded slowly. His supervisor said he called out this morning. Claimed he was feeling unwell. Ethan's gaze sharpened. Convenient timing. Lily swallowed, feeling the tension in the room deepen. Do you think he did something wrong? Daniel shook his head gently. We do not know yet. But someone used his credentials in a way he could not have. Ethan stepped closer to the screen, crossing his arms. There is something else, is there not? Daniel hesitated for a moment, then displayed the lobby footage again. He played the segment Lily had seen earlier, showing the imposter adjusting the pedestal. But then he zoomed in further than before, revealing a reflection in the polished marble floor. Lily's heart skipped as the image sharpened. It was the faint outline of another figure standing several yards away, almost hidden behind a marble column. Not the imposter. Someone watching the imposter. Ethan leaned forward, his voice calm, but edged with caution. Who was that? Daniel shook his head. We ran facial recognition on what little we could capture. No match. Lily stared at the shadowy silhouette, a strange chill settling in her chest. So there were 2 of them, she whispered. Daniel nodded. The imposter and someone observing him. Someone who knew exactly where to stand to avoid the cameras. Ethan turned to Lily, his expression thoughtful and unexpectedly gentle. This is why I needed you here. You were the only person who entered the lobby between these 2 individuals. Your arrival changed their timing. Lily's breath caught. My timing? Yes, Ethan said. Whoever was watching stepped back the moment you came through the doors. You disrupted whatever they intended to do next. She looked again at the faint silhouette on the screen, realizing that a stranger had been watching from the shadows while she nervously repeated a table number and clutched an envelope. A stranger she never knew existed. Ethan's voice lowered. Miss Carter, whatever this is, It is larger than a misplaced sculpture. Someone is testing the boundaries of my company from the inside. Lily sat very still, her heart pounding in her ears. She had walked into this building hoping to apologize. Now she found herself staring at a mystery she had unknowingly stepped into, one that was beginning to reveal another truth Ethan had not said aloud. Someone inside Halden Tower was not who they claimed to be. Iffy silence settled over the conference room as Lily stared at the faint silhouette on the monitor, her pulse quickening with each passing second. She could feel Ethan watching her, not with impatience or authority, but with an intent curiosity that made her want to understand what she had stumbled into. Daniel cleared his throat softly. "There is more," he said, tapping the screen again. A new set of data appeared, showing access logs from the executive floors. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "These are from my private level." Daniel nodded. "Yes, sir. We noticed 3 unauthorized attempts to access your floor late last night. All unsuccessful, but very deliberate." Lily blinked. "Someone tried to get to your office?" Daniel responded carefully. "Someone tried to get somewhere only a handful of people have clearance for." Ethan stepped closer to the display, his expression unreadable. "Who was logged in the building at the time?" Daniel pulled up the personnel list. The names that appeared made Ethan pause. Only 3 employees had been present during the attempted entries: a night janitor, a security trainee, and Marcus Gray, the chief financial officer. Lily recognized the name instantly. She had seen him in the glossy magazines stacked in the agency's break room. Ethan's right hand, the man who often appeared beside him at corporate events. "Your chief financial officer was here?" she whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. "Marcus often stays late," Daniel added, "but he left 10 minutes before the unauthorized access attempts began. His badge was used to exit the building, but not to re-enter." Ethan's gaze sharpened. "Which means someone may have cloned it." Lily felt a chill ripple through her arms. "Is that even possible?" "Difficult," Daniel replied, "but not impossible if someone has inside knowledge." Ethan paced a few steps, his jaw tightening with thought. Lily watched him, noticing the subtle change in his posture. Less rigid than before, more guarded, as though he had just connected dots he did not want to believe. "Show me the interior cameras from the time Marcus left," Ethan said. Daniel switched the display. Footage from. A corridor appeared. Marcus walked through the hallway with a steady stride, talking on his phone. He looked composed, confident, unaware that this footage would become part of an investigation. "Now watch," Daniel said as he advanced the recording. 30 seconds after Marcus turned the corner, another figure appeared at the far end of the hallway. This one wore a uniform identical to the imposter from the lobby. But something about his stance felt different, calculated, quiet, almost expectant. Lily felt her breath hitch. "That is the same uniform from the lobby." Daniel nodded. "Yes, but this person never approached the pedestal. Instead, he seemed to be waiting, watching the executive passageway." Ethan stood very still. He was watching Marcus. The room fell into a thick silence. Lily stared at the frozen frame. Marcus walking confidently, and behind him, a man in a stolen uniform, lingering like a shadow that should not exist. "Why would someone follow your chief financial officer?" Lily asked softly. Ethan did not answer immediately. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Because Marcus is the one person with enough access and knowledge to compromise this company, or to be targeted by someone who wants to." Daniel glanced at Ethan carefully. "Sir, there is something else you should consider. The imposter in the lobby may not have been testing the pedestal. He may have been testing your response." Lily's eyes widened. "So the sculpture was a distraction." Daniel nodded. "A quiet, harmless misdirection designed to pull attention one way while something else was happening somewhere else." Ethan exhaled, slow and deliberate. "And Lily walked in at the wrong moment." Daniel corrected gently. "At the right moment, sir." Lily looked down, uncertain how to process the fact that her clumsy arrival had disrupted the plans of someone bold enough to infiltrate a billionaire's headquarters. Ethan met her gaze, his expression softened by something she could not quite name. "Miss Carter," he said, "I think you were never a part of their plan. But you changed it." And for the first time, Lily realized that whatever mystery had begun in this tower, she was no longer standing on the outside of it. Eileen's breath felt shallow as she sat in the conference room, the images on the screen imprinting themselves in her mind like faint shadows she could not unsee. Ethan stood beside Daniel. but his attention kept drifting back to her, as if he were evaluating not her mistake anymore, but her place in the unfolding pattern. "Miss Carter," Ethan said gently, "I need to ask you something important." Her fingers tightened around the edges of her chair, but she nodded. "All right. In the days leading up to your delivery here, did anyone ask you unusual questions? Anyone from your agency, or someone you did not recognize, asking about your assignment?" Lily blinked, startled by the question. "No one asked me anything. The assignment came in like normal. Just a short-term delivery." Ethan studied her expression, and when he found no trace of hesitation or confusion, he nodded. "Good. That means you were not targeted, which aligns with what we have seen," Daniel added. "It also means whoever was behind this did not expect your arrival. Your timing disrupted their plan." Lily pressed her palms against her knees, grounding herself. "I never meant to interrupt anything. I just wanted to finish the delivery quickly." Ethan's voice softened. "I know, but sometimes interruptions reveal truths that were never meant to be seen." The lights dimmed slightly as Daniel switched the screen to a new set of reports. "We ran background checks on everyone who had access to the areas compromised. Everyone except Marcus Gray came back clean." Lily looked up quickly. "Except your chief financial officer?" Daniel nodded. "There are discrepancies in his travel logs, multiple unexplained late-night badge uses, and a series of secure document downloads that do not match his typical work pattern." Ethan's jaw shifted, the faintest tension forming. "Marcus has worked for me for years. If he were involved, I would know." Daniel hesitated. "Sir, the data is not accusing him, but it suggests someone may be using his credentials or trying to imitate his patterns." Lily exhaled slowly. "So someone is trying to make it look like him." Ethan looked at her, surprised by her clarity. "Exactly." Lily blinked. "But why him?" Daniel answered. "Because Marcus has access to everything. Financial data, investor reports, internal audits. If someone wanted to understand the structure of the company or find weak points, they would study the chief financial officer first." Lily nodded, trying to absorb the complexity of a world so far removed from her own. Numbers that controlled thousands of jobs. Decisions that shaped entire departments. Someone trying to slip between those lines. "Sir," Daniel said carefully, "there is something more you should see." He pulled up one last image, an email sent from an untraceable account. It contained only one line. "Trial 1 complete." The response was faster than expected. Lily felt her heartbeat rise. "This was sent yesterday," Daniel added. Ethan stepped closer to the screen, reading the message twice before he spoke. "Trial 1, he murmured, "meaning there will be a second." Lily looked from Ethan to Daniel, fear and confusion tightening her chest. "What does that mean?" Daniel replied. "It means the pedestal incident was not the goal. It was only a test." Ethan turned toward Lily, his voice steady but filled with a gravity she had never heard before. "Miss Carter, I am afraid this is no longer a matter of a single mistake or a curious fingerprint." He paused, his gaze locked on hers. "Someone inside this building is preparing for something bigger. And whether you realize it or not, you are now a witness to their first step." Lily felt the weight of his words settle into her bones. She had stepped into Halden Tower as a temporary worker. Now she was caught in a quiet storm she could not yet understand, one that was only beginning. The words hung in the air long after Ethan spoke them, sinking into Lily's chest with a weight she struggled to name. Witness. She had never imagined her life intersecting with a world of corporate secrets, let alone becoming a piece of a puzzle that powerful people were trying to hide. She clasped her hands tightly, grounding herself as Ethan paced slowly toward the window, the skyline stretching far across the horizon. "Miss Carter," he said without turning, "I need you to understand something. What you saw, what you interrupted, it places you in a position that is not entirely safe." Lily's breath caught. "Safe? From what?" Ethan turned back to her, his expression steady but sincere. "Whoever is behind this does not want to be seen. They do not know yet that we are aware of their presence, but they will soon realize their first trial was not as subtle as they believed." Lily swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" Daniel approached the table, his tone gentle but direct. "For now, nothing changes in your routine. The more predictable you appear, the less likely you are to draw the wrong kind of attention." Lily nodded, though her heart thumped nervously. "But you both think someone will try again," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan answered quietly. And this time, they will be more careful. A stretch of silence followed, but it was not empty. It was the silence of new truths forming, the kind that reshapes a person's understanding of where they stand in the world. Miss Carter, Ethan continued, I will have a driver take you home today. And from now on, you will not enter or exit the building without notifying security. Lily blinked, startled. I do not want to cause trouble. You are not causing trouble, Ethan replied. You are part of the evidence. That is not a burden you chose, but it is one we must manage. She looked down at her hands, trying to calm the tremor she felt. She had never been the center of anything, never the person people looked at twice. She was always just another face in a crowd, another temporary employee, another person hoping to get by. Why me? She whispered. Why did I stumble into all of this? Ethan approached her slowly, his expression softened by something she could not decipher. Because sometimes the right eyes appear at the wrong moment. And sometimes, he added, those eyes see what the world has grown too comfortable ignoring. Lily looked up at him, meeting his gaze fully for the first time since she arrived. She expected to find steel and corporate distance. Instead, she found warmth, a quiet reassurance she had not expected from a man known for his cold demeanor. Daniel cleared his throat gently. Sir, there is one more thing. Ethan turned. Yes. Daniel tapped the screen once more, revealing a second message from the untraceable account. Just 3 words. Trial too soon. Lily's breath caught. Ethan read the message twice before exhaling, a steadying, controlled breath. They are accelerating, Daniel murmured. They know we reacted quickly. Ethan straightened, his voice firm but calm. Then we will react faster. He turned to Lily once more. Miss Carter, I will not allow anything to happen to you. You have my word. Lily nodded, unsure whether to be comforted or terrified. She stood slowly, her legs steady despite the whirlwind inside her. Ethan gestured toward the door. Come. I will have someone escort you home. As they walked toward the private elevator, Lily glanced. One last time at the conference room, the screens glowing faintly, the shadowy silhouette frozen in the corner of the lobby footage, and the quiet hum of a mystery that had begun with one innocent mistake. She stepped into the elevator beside Ethan, realizing with a strange certainty that whatever Trial 2 would bring, her life would never return to the simplicity it once had. And she was no longer just a witness. She was now part of a story unfolding inside Halden Tower, a story powerful enough to pull her into its center whether she felt ready or not.